When it comes to graphics, graphics are a great thing to add to your word processing, documents, reports, what have you. And some of the more popular type graphics are putting in there like graphs and charts as well as diagrams. And these are, in essence, graphics that kind of tell a story of many words. It's kind of like, a picture tells 1,000 words type of thing. So, same thing here. So I'm going to show you how to put a chart in. We're going to do a number of them. We'll do a column type chart. We'll do a line chart, and we'll also do a pie chart. And we'll kind of embed them into the document here. You can kind of see how they all are put together. We're not going to go into major detail on them. We're just going to do enough to where you get the feel for it. To learn great detail on these things, you might want to check out Microsoft Excel's videos, the module number 9. Okay, and that has all the different types of graphics that you can put into your worksheet, but it's the same thing as far as doing it with Microsoft Word. So without further ado, let's try this now. So I'm going to pick a spot to put my my graph. So I'll go like right about right here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to click on to Insert, and you'll see Chart over here. So I'll click onto that. This pops up, and we're going to start first of all with just this column cluster type chart here. So we'll choose that. We'll hit OK. Now what you're going to see up here will be obviously the graph, but you also have this little what we call a data table. And it has in there sample information just so that you have the idea of what you would do to make this happen. So we might go in there and say, okay, for instance, I'll go to here and I'll say, okay, we've got our north, and then hit the enter key, and I'll do south, east, and west. There we go on that one. And then along the top here, we'll put in, so along the top, maybe we'll put something like maybe Tampa. We'll put in there Chicago. And we'll put in there Lahaina. Okay, so there it is. So as we do all of that, you can kind of see it changing here. We've got our legend there. We've got our 4 different areas there. And let's just say now that we want to add another territory here. So we'll go up to here. We'll type in Detroit, like that. And then we'll go ahead and we'll plug in some numbers. We'll put, let's say, 5, 3, 2, and 4, just like that. And you can see how that expands itself out. So it's pretty easy to update that kind of information. All right. And then once we've finished with the data, we can actually just kind of close up this little window there. And now there's our graph. So then we can go back in there. I can click on the title area here and type in something like worldwide sales, 2025. Click away from it. There it looks like that. You can also click onto it and go back into home and make that bold. Maybe make it a little bit bigger. Stuff like that. The other thing you can say, well, I think I'd like to have the legend, at the top here. So you can go over here and click on the Elements button there. Go to where it says Legend. Click onto here and tell it that you want that at the top. And then you can click back onto it again and go back into your Home tab. Make it bold. Make it a little bit bigger. Kind of make it stand out. That type of stuff. If you want the labels here to stand out a little bit more, we can kind of click onto this one here, right? Make that bold. Maybe make it made a little bit bigger if you want. And then over here we can click on that, make it bold as well, and a little bit bigger too. I can also click back onto here, go back to my elements, right, and tell it that I need to put in some axis labels here. So what we're going to do here is tell it that I want to do the primary vertical here, so click onto that. And then while that's selected, I can put in there millions of dollars, something like that. And then I can go back and click onto it like that and make that bigger. And maybe make it bold as well. That's pretty cool. Now what I can also do is change one of the graphic types to a different graphic. So maybe what I'd like to do is compare the territories to maybe Tampa. All right. So if I click onto the Tampa bar here, all right, and then I go back into format. Design here. Go to the design tab up here, right? I can then go to where it says change chart type. And I can tell it then that I want my Tampa to be not what is called a cluster column type bar, but rather a line with markers on it. So I can click onto that, hit OK, and get something like that. So in essence, it's pretty much kind of showing that Tampa is at this point here, so it exceeded these guys here, it exceeded this one here, exceeded all of them here, and then exceeded these two here. Just, the very look of it, but it's just kind of an interesting deal there. And another thing we can do as well is we can actually resize the graph, kind of like this. You got a certain point you can go before it gets to be kind of goofy looking, but kind of resize it just like that. And then you've got this little guy here, layout options, and click onto that and say, okay, I'd like to have it kind of wrap around I want the text to wrap around the graph. So I click on it onto the square, all right? And then what I can do is I can take this and move it around and do something like that. There you go. All right, so there's your bar graph, or not, I should say bar, your column type graph. Okay, so now next one we're going to do here is going to be a line graph. So I'm going to go ahead and put myself about right there. Go back into insert, go back into my chart, and we're going to go to line, and we'll just do this one here. This is the standard right here. The markers, and then we'll go ahead and hit OK, and there we go. So I'm going to take some data that I have in Excel, and I'm actually going to copy that data from Excel into this spot right here. So I've got open on my screen. I'll just show it to you real quick here. I've got this little worksheet right here, okay? So I've got that, and what I did is I selected it, I hit copy, and then I came over to here, all right, and I just did a right click and I pasted it in just like that. It tells me that I've got some totals in here, and it's not going to copy the totals in, but rather it's just going to give me whatever the totals were without the formula, okay? So that's fine, and I hit OK. There we go. And there is our graph. So that's all I really need to do with the data here. I've got the data that I need, so I'm done with that. So I can just actually just close this up, and there's my graph. Okay, so now the first thing I want to do with this is I want to kind of flip what we call the x-axis with the legend here. Okay, so in order to do that, all I have to do is while I'm on it, I go here. So I just make sure I'm on the graph here, and then up here in my design tab, I'm going to click on to select data. Now when I do that, what I'm going to do is tell it that I want to switch the row column. I want to flip these. All right, so I click that flips it around. I hit OK, and now it's turned around. So now I've got that. So now I'll close that up. All right. So it's showing me the total as this one right here, and basically this point right here is basically all three territories here added together. So we added up each of their numbers at that point. You know, when we look at the number over here, it equals this amount up here. All right. Now, part of the problem with this is it's a little bit hard to kind of see what's going on here because everything's all over the place. So what you can do is we can go back up here and tell we want to change the chart type. All right. And when we click onto that, this will pop up here. All right. And we can tell it that we want to do instead more of a kind of a stacked line here. So if we do that and hit OK, then you can see something like that. The only problem with this is that when you look at these lines, this one here is very accurate. Okay, so when you match the point with the y-axis here to look at the value, that is very much the same. But when you look at this one here, that point makes it look like it's at like almost like 75,000. Well, when you point to it, it says it's only 30,000. That's because that the distance between this one and this one is that 30,000. See, so what we're doing is we're stacking them on top of one another. So this is accurate as far as it going up and down and all that, but the value that you match it up with over here is not accurate. When you point to it, it is, but that's it. But we put up with this because we don't want to see that entanglement of lines, all right? And we want to be able to see, you know, on a month-by-month basis, did the sales go up or down, all right, over those months there. Now, one of the things we can do is we can actually put what are called data labels on the total, which would basically show what all three of these added up to, and it will actually have the total right on the data point for January and for February and March and so forth, all right? So how would we do that? Well, we'd go over and we would click onto the line, just like that, and then we would go to our elements right here, all right, and tell it that we want data labels, all right? And if we go ahead and do that, click onto that, we'll see the numbers there. Now, they look fine the way they are, but if you want them to go maybe vertical, you know, I mean, this here it looks good, but if you want to make them go vertical, what you can do is point to one of them and double click it, and this little panel will pop up, all right? And let me just kind of scroll back down to our graph there. Okay, so at this point, then you can say, okay, I want the I want that label, you know, above, which it already is, but then I can go over to here, okay, and I can tell as far as the text direction, click onto that, and tell it that I want to go vertical like that. It's up to you how you want that to be. Now I'll go ahead and close this, and there we go. And then I can make this kind of stand out a little bit more while still selected by going back to home and hitting maybe bold and maybe making it just a little bit bigger, something like that. There we go. And then we can do little things like go back into the elements here, go to the legend, and tell it again that we want the legend at the top, all right? And we can make the legend maybe a little bit bigger if we wanted to. And so we can do that by just kind of clicking onto there, doing that. Now, of course, our labels, our data labels here are running into the legend there, so we might think about maybe going back to the legend and saying, okay, let's go and put that maybe off to the right instead. You know, it look like that if you wanted to, all right? And then, of course, we've got the title up here. We can put in there, maybe we'll type in like top territories, you know, 2025 or something like that. Click away from it, and there we go. Now, again, we can take that chart, make it a little bit smaller. Yeah, not much. And then I think maybe the way it looks here, I think this is not going to work out good that way. So maybe what we'll do is we'll double click the label. That'll take us back into here again. We can go back to the layout and tell it to maybe go back to being flat. And we'll kind of close that up. And now they're flat. So that might be looking a lot better. And I think that way then we can go back to the legend and put the legend back on the top. I think that looks better. There we go. Now we can go ahead maybe and resize this a little bit to get it to look okay here, right? And then we can go ahead again and we can tell it that we want the text to wrap around it. And then we can move this over to here. And there we go. So a nice looking graph. Okay, so now I'm going to show you, and this is a slight little departure here for just for a moment here. You can actually, create your graphs in Excel. I mean, you can actually have a spreadsheet out in Excel. You base a graph off of it. And now maybe you want to take that graph and put it into your report as well. Okay, so how would we go about doing that? Well, let me just kind of go down here a little bit. And we're going to go about this point here. And I'm going to go out to Excel, and I've got I already have it open here, but here's the graph that I have, okay? And what I'm going to do is copy and paste that into here, okay? So I'm going to go over into Excel. So I click onto there. Well, here, I'll show you. Let's move that back here. Okay, so I'm in Excel. I click on the graph. I right-click it, hit copy. All right, so now it's copied. Now I'll get that out of there. Okay, now you go back to your Word document. You click to wherever you want to put it. Let's say we want to put it right there. We do a right-click, and you've got a number of different ways you can put it in. You can put it in like that, using the destination, and pretty much using the formatting of what we have here in Word. So we can go with that one there, or you can actually, so you got that one there. You can also embed it in there, all right? And then the other thing is you can actually bring it in and have it linked. So that way later on, if it ever changes in Excel, it'll automatically update in your report. You can do any of those. All right, so I'll just go with that one. What the heck? So we'll click on there, and there it is. I mean, that's pretty easy. All right. Then I can still click onto it. I can click onto here and make it wrap like we had before, right? And then I can take that and resize it. It's gonna be a little tough. This is a kind of a tight one here, but I can get at least a little bit here. Do something like that. And then I can move that to, whatever location and have that wrap around. So pretty easy. I think though on this one, maybe the having resized it kind of messes up the title there. So pretty much, we can maybe just kind of leave it like this and just have it at the top of the document and be done with it. Something like that. All right, or top of the page there. All right, so that's that one. All right. Now, next thing I want to do is show you how to do a, we're going to do a pie chart here, okay? So I'll just click somewhere, and again, go back into Insert, go back to our chart, and go down to Pie, and then we'll go with the, maybe just a 3D one there. Hit OK. There we go. Now, when it comes to pies, there's only one data set that we can have. In other words, or what we call a range or a series of data. So, and that's pretty obvious because you've got, you got one pie, you got the pieces. I mean, it just only makes sense. And we'll just go with that data that we have in there. Save some time here, so I'll just close that up. So there we go. And what we can actually do, instead of spending a lot of time, formatting it, we can actually go up here into the Design tab, and we can actually pick any of these styles that it's already, a lot of that work is done for you. So we can actually click on this one here, this one there, any of these we have. They look pretty good, a lot of them. So maybe something like that there. All right, so I can fix this up a little bit as well. If, let's say for instance, maybe I want to reposition the labels inside, what I can actually do is just double click one of these labels here, all right? That takes me in, and then I can do this. I can go back and I can say, okay, I want to put those labels inside on the end. And I do that, or I can do inside, or actually in the center as well. I can do something like that, but I think the inside end would be best. And then while it's still selected, I can go back to home and maybe change the font color, maybe to white or something like that. Maybe make it just a little bit bigger, something like that. All right. I might also want to kind of flatten this out a little bit, have it kind of turn up more towards me and have it a little bit less thick here. So what I can actually do is double click this, all right, and then kind of click on the inside here, all right, then go to this position here, this guy here, and I've got my 3D rotation. And what I can actually do here is kind of bring it up towards me. So on the Y rotation, if I bring the degrees up here a little bit, it kind of does like that for me. That's one thing. And then I can make it a little bit less thick by going over to here. Now it tells me that the height right now is about 65, and that's okay. Maybe I want to make it just a little bit less. What I do is I take the auto scale off, reduce it a little bit like that, and then turn the auto scale back on again, and then I've got that. That's not too bad. And then I can go ahead and kind of click away from it there. And then I can go back into here and maybe resize it, kind of bring it down like that. And then go to my layout here and have it wrap, have the text wrap around it. Then I can go here, let me do that. Click onto here and kind of move it up like that, see? There we go. Now what I can also do is I can actually get rid of the canvas that we have here and the frame that we have here and have it so where the text will actually wrap around the object itself, which would be pretty cool. Now to make that happen, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just kind of point to this area here, double click it. That takes us into here, and it happens to put us right on the fill in the border here. So if we go in there and we say we don't want any fill, no fill, and we want no border, all right, do something like that. And then we go back into here and tell it that we want to go with the through. We can do something like that, see? I think this one will do the same thing too. Yeah, that'll do the same as well. So that's it. And we can close that up and close that up. There you go. That might be a little busy in there, so it's up to you if you want to do something like that. I mean, we can also kind of move it around elsewhere and to see where we can kind of put it to where it would look pretty good. So something maybe like that even, right? So not bad. Maybe to make it just look a little bit better here, considering the document here would be talking about what that graph is, we might not really need to have the title in there. We can actually just kind of click onto that and then just hit the delete key and wipe that out if we wanted to. We could also go onto the elements and told it we don't want the chart title in there. And there we go. And then that way then we can go back in there and maybe move it around a little bit more here. There we go. And have it like that there. Okay, so that's it with the pie. Okay, so now we're going to look at doing some diagrams, and the diagram feature is what we call SmartArt. That's that's one of the features. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a small organizational chart, hierarchical type chart. So I'm going to go and click about right here, and then I'm going to go back into the insert, and then we'll have in here SmartArt. So I'll click onto that, and then we can go over here to hierarchy, just like that. And you got all these different ones in here. Now, what I would suggest is just start with just the basic one here, and if later on, if you want to kind of change it to one of these other ones, you can. But I think it's easier to put it together with the basic and then switch over to whatever one you want to really have. So we'll start with that one there. We'll hit OK, and there it is. Now what happens is we have this little arrow here. We click onto it, and it opens up the little text box here, or text pane. So the bullets are what's going to give us the boxes here in this case, right? So over here we can type in, let's say, a big kahuna, something like that, and the text resizes itself, you know, to fit the box as you just saw there. And then I'll just hit my down arrow key, and this is where the assistant would go, and we can just say this would be a little coconut. All right, and then we can go down one more, and this could be, let's say, Chip, and then I can go down one. This would be, let's say, Kathy, and then Susan, just like that. Then what I can do is, if I wanted to put people underneath them, let's say my first group of people underneath Chip, I can go over here to Chip, right? Hit the Enter key, gives me a new bullet. Now it thinks it wants me to, or it thinks I want to put a new person at that level. I really want to put the person underneath Chip, right? So what I'll do is I'll hit my Tab key, that moves it in. And here I can type in, let's say, Beavis, hit my Enter key, type in Joe, hit my Enter key and type in, let's say, Beth, all right? And then I can go, and I can also take this box and kind of move it out here and make it taller so I can actually see things here, right? So I do that for Chip. And let's say for Susan, I'll enter on Susan, and then I'll tab in, and here we'll type in, let's say, Wanda. We'll put in there Mo and Larry, just like that. Pretty cool. And then when you're done putting all the text in here, we can actually just kind of close that up, and now we can go back to here. Now we can kind of rearrange how this is laid out here. So we click on the Chip there, right? We go to Layout, and we tell it we want to do maybe the standard. Do that one right there. And I can go over to Susan, go to here, and then also hit the standard. It does that. If that seems a little too tight, go back to Chip again, go to here, and maybe do the both. Do something like that, and then go to Susan, and again do the both. So do something like that. Or, I mean, there's so many different ways you can do it, but I'll just leave it at that. I'll get too carried away here. Now while we're on it here, we can also go in and change the color. So I can go to here and I can click on that and go with the colorful, and what it does, it gives me colors at each level. So each level has its own kind of set of colors. I can do that, or I can do any of these other ones here. So maybe do something like that. All right. And then you can also then go over into the styles area here. And as you can see here, we have kind of like just the flat look right now, but we also have, we can do something like that. Any of these here, there you get like a shadow kind of an effect there. I think this one also had the shadow. Oh, no. Yeah, there's a shadow there. And these other ones at the bottom, those are horrible, but you can click onto that. That works out pretty nicely. And then if you wanted to, you could also go ahead and change it to a different design. So I can click on this little drop down here, and as I hover over these, you can kind of see how they look here. All right, so any of those you could, that's pretty wild there, huh? And we got this one here, so you can do like a sideways shot like that, if that looks better to you. All right, so you got all these different ways you can make it look, but I'll just leave it on the one I've got there. And then again, we can go ahead and resize this. And I love it because even as the boxes get smaller, the text kind of resizes as well there for me. So I've got that. And of course I can go back into here, tell it to line up there. And I can, oh, that might be a little too much wrapping around like that. I think maybe just wrapping around the square would be best. And then I can take that and I can then move it to wherever I need it to go, just like we did before. That's pretty nice. Actually, I think that might even look better. Put it over on this side here. There we go. You can actually put this out in the margin as well a little bit. All right, so there we go. Not bad. I've always told people, you know, when you have an organizational chart that you put together like this, that you want to make it kind of look as balanced as you can. And it's kind of funny because I'll tell people, listen, you know, when you have something like this and you want to kind of balance it out more, you'll just have to hire more people in your organization. But let me just show you real quick here, and then we're going to move on to the last one here. Open that thing up, and what I'll do is I'll go in here and I'll say, okay, for Chip, underneath Beth, I'll just hit the Enter key, and I'll put in there, I'll put Marge in there, see? So I got that balanced out there. And then I'll go down to Susan, and I'll go maybe after Wanda here, hit the Enter key, and I'll type in Bob. Oh, geez, I can't even type here. Bob. There we go on that one. And then I can also hire an additional assistant. So I'll go after the little coconut, hit the Enter key on that one, and I can get another one called, and this could be maybe Pam. Palm tree. All right. Anyway. All right. There we go. So there. Now that looks pretty good there. Okay. All right. So now what I want to do is to show you another type here that we'll do another. Oh, I guess we're out of room there. I guess we'll maybe put it over here. All right. We'll do another diagram here, and I'm going to go back into Insert again. Go back into my. Can't get there. Go over to the SmartArt there, and on this one, you know, maybe you want to show maybe a cycle of some sort. So we can do something like this, and have this one here. Hit OK, and there it goes. And again, you can put in your text on each one of these. I'll just do that there. If you need to add more, you got that. Not too bad. All right. So I got that. You can resize it as usual. Have it kind of wrap around it. Oops, maybe not that much. Just wrap it like that. And then the other thing we can do is we can go back up into the format here, or design, I should say. Go to the change colors and find a different color for it if you want. Just kind of go from there. Okay, so that's it. So hopefully this helps you out, and I appreciate you watching the video. Take care.